our next session, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the power and potential of AI. Please welcome up our brand leaders, Susan Jones from Diageo and Aaron Bradley from Wella Company. Susan and Aaron, a huge welcome to you both. Thank you for joining us. Susan, I'd love to start with you. Tell us a little bit about how Diageo thinks about AI and some of the efficiencies that it's bringing to the business.
Hi, everybody. We're thinking about AI in a couple different ways. I'd say the first is productivity and how it can bring efficiency into the business. But increasingly, I think we're thinking about how it can inspire innovation, how it can help us derive insights at scale much faster and much more depth. And then we're really starting to lean into how we can use it to improve consumer experience. And that, to me, is sort of the next dimension for us to go into.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of workplace productivity, how are you using AI within your teams, and what are some of those results that you're seeing?
The productivity within workplace, we have our version of ChatGPT that's within Diageo, and more people are coming to rely on it and see how it can make our jobs easier every day. But a lot of the productivity we're doing is within our marketing practice. Really just using pretty simple tools to do programmatic bidding at scale, much faster, much more competitively. Developing tools that help us do the things that have been really difficult for us to scale. So, as an example, we recently co-developed a tool that helps us with compliance to our marketing code. As you can imagine, in the spirits industry, our responsibility to our consumers and to marketing is a big task. And it's complex. So training every marketer on the code and having confidence that they can interpret every part of it is pretty difficult. But what we found is we can use AI. So we've developed this tool where marketers can upload their content, and we've trained the AI based on the expert that we have in compliance, and found that not only does it take a bit of a heavy lift to give people a little hint to say, hey, you may want to look at this, you may want to look at this aspect, but it's a great training tool. So when we first rolled it out and tested it, people agreed with the tool's assessment about 50% of the time. Mm-hmm. So therefore, they agreed with the expert assessment about 50% of the time. After using it for a couple months, they agreed with the assessment 97% of the time.
Wow.
So we find time and again, that's kind of the extra benefit that the AI is bringing, not just consistency of how we're performing, but as a bit of a learning and a training tool.
Aaron, how are you using AI as a sort of learning and training tool? Have you seen its impact on workplace productivity?
Yeah, of course. So firstly, hi everyone. So at Wella Company, we've ran a number of different pilots and we've implemented workplace support tools. And the areas that we're seeing a huge amount of efficiencies are the uses of AI, which enhances how you as an individual within the workplace operate. It's not a separate tool as such as we're using. It's how do you enhance or accelerate how someone's doing their work. So the areas that we're seeing already very quickly are the meeting arrangements, the transcripts, the automation in terms of sentiment analysis on some information that comes through, the summarization of a lot of those long emails that everyone gets, and people think, I don't want to spend 20 minutes reading those. You can summarize those very quickly. But the clever part of the AI tools is the next step, which is it makes recommendations on actual actions for those employees. So it will read through maybe some meeting notes, it'll read through the emails, and it will then make suggestions on setting up a meeting for this person. So for me, we're not using it so much in the training aspect, but we're really pushing it out for those everyday sort of efficiencies, which we're seeing huge amounts of benefits of already, and we're only scratching the surface.
So it's removing some of those sort of more admin tasks that somebody would have to do.
Yeah, I think when we looked at and I'm sure we'll talk about this throughout the conversation, but when we looked at deploying AI, it really comes down to the problem that we're trying to solve and the value that we're trying to add either to the individual, to the company, or the customer and consumer. And for the workplace efficiencies, it's really about how do we open up more time so that they can do more creative things. And so one of the big areas that we found were the administration of everyone's day-to-day lives. But the other thing is the augmentation reporting of data. And again, that's in multiple different ways. But even just as an individual, trying to gather information within the organization around basic pieces of content or data. So instead of having to go into the data team and asking for all these things, or searching through your folder system of 400 PowerPoint presentations, which you've been storing over the last few years, we're using AI to quickly find, augment, and then provide that information to you. And I think that's where we're seeing a huge amount of value.
Yeah. And Susan, I know that you're also using AI within Diageo to really boost innovation and creativity. And one of those areas is in packaging design. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, one of the really amazing programs that our Breakthrough Innovation team piloted was using AI in collaboration with an artist for Johnnie Walker. So if you're a consumer and you go to our Johnnie Walker experience in Edinburgh, which I highly recommend to everybody, and during the program, if you bought a bottle of Johnnie Walker Blue Label, you could co-create the label with Scott Naismith, an artist. It guided consumers through choices to make, and then crafted a bespoke label for the consumer. So, just an example of, I think, AI bringing creativity to the consumer experience. And consumers tell us every day they want more personalized, more memorable experiences. And AI can do that in a way that would be hard to replicate sort of conventionally.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples of some of those other customer-facing initiatives that you're using to really create that sort of personalized experience through AI?
Yes. One of the other experiences that we have started with a program called What's Your Whiskey? So, consumers told us it's a little difficult to navigate the many, many whiskeys that are out there. So we have our own system that guides consumers through their choices and asks them a series of questions about sort of common taste profiles of, do you like lemon? Do you like vanilla? Do you like this? Do you like that? And uses AI to then give recommendations. We've taken that system and now used it to other effect. So the more recent example is What's Your Cocktail, which helps people find the cocktail that would be perfect for their occasion, for their taste profile, et cetera. And what we're finding is, obviously, it gives amazing recommendations, but also 45 million people have gone through it. And the wealth of data and information that that's bringing to us, the insights on taste profiles, on food pairings, on everything is really valuable to us.
Actually, I tried, as part of my research, I tried the What's Your Cocktail website.
What did you get?
I got a Captain Morgan Mai Tai. Yeah, it's really fun. Everyone should have a go. And you mentioned about this wealth of data that you've got from that sort of campaign. Have you seen any uplift in sales as a result of this?
Yeah, I mean, what we see is every time we use consumer insights and append what we're doing with data to personalize it, we see better results. We see cost efficiencies, we see it driving more sales. It just works.
Yeah. Great. Aaron, how are you using or planning to use connected data and AI to improve the customer experience?
So Wella Company, the customer is always at the forefront of what we do. So when we're looking at AI to increase and improve that experience, it touches on what Susan mentioned earlier around this personalization at scale, and what we're trying to do is take that step further in terms of this sort of hyper personalization, and that means treating individuals as individuals, understanding them, and using a huge amount of information to be able to provide them with the right services, the right products, the right tailored experience, which wasn't really possible before at such a scale to so many people. So when we're looking at improving the experience for our customers, we have such a range of different customers, from independent hairstylists up to big salons, and of course we've got the consumer business as well. But one of the big things for Wella is we grow if you grow. So it's really important for us to connect to that customer and help them grow as a business in partnership with us. So we're using the information and the data. Can we provide more services for them as individuals, so the individual hairstylists or the salons? But then how can we use the data to provide insights which are going to be tangible, real value adds to those individuals? Of course, we've got the product recommendations and stuff like that, which we actually use with Emarsys as well. But it's that mass information of how do you add an additional service? How do you improve that experience? Again, recognizing the individual and providing them the tailored experience. And so.
Yeah, and can you share any of the results that you've seen as a result of providing that hyper personalization?
Yeah, so we've got, we're in varied stages as is which part of that, but we've seen a significant uplift in using the IIS product recommendations and things like that, because it's actually, the clever element of it is showing and recommending products or services which aren't natural for us internally to say X goes with Y. Actually using AI to be able to identify opportunities for those individuals when it's product recommendations, whether it's education courses, whether it's other services around that. So we do see a conversion uplift, absolutely.
I'd love to know from both of you, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced with integrating AI into your operations?
I think what we've learned is you have to understand what you're trying to do with it at a fairly granular level, almost a hands-on level first. When you put the technology first and don't understand what you're trying to solve, it can lead you to some strange places. And I think, look, this is an area that it's changing so rapidly. We've had to rethink and build systems that are a bit more flexible so that we're open to when the next generation of technology comes in, we can connect it through and not really be stuck to a technology that might be obsolete in a bit.
Yeah, so it's also understanding the why you're using it, not just using it for the sake of AI.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Aaron?
So for us, it's an interesting one because the challenge of integration are, and I'll make this point because it's actually positive and negative, is that everyone is so keen to use AI, which is amazing, right? Because we've already bought, they're already bought in. The challenge on that is to make sure that we're executing the right AI tools for the right reasons, and we focus on the ROI on what those solutions are. And there's a real value to us as an organization and to our customers or consumers. There's no shortage of new tools which keep getting asked to be put in. But I'd say operationally, the first challenge that we had to face was to actually have a data AI strategy. Because without that foundational data strategy there, everything above that, when it's executing using AI, is restricted or slightly more difficult. So it's about the connectivity of all the different systems, but it's about the foundational data strategy, and it's about identifying the right tools for the right job and the real reasons why, and focusing on the ROI, because it gets lost sometimes when everyone's so excited about doing something new. We need to make sure there's real tangible value.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that everyone's so enthusiastic and excited about using AI. Is one of the challenges finding the right talent and someone who blends that creativity with the technological know-how?
Yeah, it's definitely a different talent profile than we might have been looking for 10 years ago. But I think it is about finding that blend, because it is about the marketing know-how, the know-how about our business, and then the curiosity to pursue new ways to do that. I think one without the other, all of the new without the context of why are we doing this, what does it mean to our business, is not as valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think one of the things that is not a challenge but an opportunity is to make sure that the marketeers or the people around the business are embracing how the AI works and upskilling and doing the prompt training, making sure you know how to use it. Because it's very easy to say, well, we'll just get our agencies to use it, which is completely valid and that's fine. But what we want to do is ingrain the use of AI in the operations of how you do your job. So it's not this separate thing. We'll get AI to do that. Actually, I'm using that part of AI as how I'm operating. And for that to happen, they need to upskill. They need to understand. Prompt training, of course, is so important. As well as just understanding the whys and the ROI.
Because alongside this explosion of AI tools, we've also seen a real growth around regulation as well. Particularly recently, we've had the EU AI Act coming into force. So what are you doing to make sure that your employees are using AI correctly? Harry?
So it's a really good question because the answer is something which isn't usually liked or appreciated by most, and it's governance. It's the horrible governance which gets put in place, which people think is restrictive and no one likes. But it's really important that, as I said earlier, you've got that data strategy in place. But the layer above that is having what we refer to as our AI steering group, our AI governance. And what that means is it's not you can't do things. It's there's the right policies, procedures, there's the right people there to support in doing it. But it's also building that list of vetted tools, which we know where the data's going, we know what the security controls are, and then it's about enabling people. And for that to be successful for us, we've needed to involve people around the whole organization. It's not an IT or a digital or a legal or a security or a marketing or a HR team. It's that having all of them around the table, because for us to appropriately govern, there's so many different expertise actually around the table needed to make sure that we've ticked all the boxes, but also we've done the right thing and we've got those right tools. So we've set up a governance structure with policies and processes, which again sounds boring, but it's not, because it's AI and it's really cool. So it works, and I think that's it. I think it's important to try and have that agility for the future, even though I know governance doesn't sound agile, but it can be.
Yeah, AI governance can be cool. Susan?
Yeah, we have set up cool AI governance as well. Much the same things. I think the thing I'd add is we started with sort of principles of how we believe we can ethically, legally use AI. And those governing principles, I think, added with some more specifics, really help people to get into the right mindset to start the journey. Because it is complicated, and the regulatory requirements of not just knowing what you're doing, but understanding the models underneath it all, it's a lot. So we have, like you, brought together cross-functional teams to try to help people think through all the issues, because we want to encourage that experimentation. We want to encourage people to find new uses, but we want to do it within the bounds of our responsibility.
And I think it's the education piece around it as well, because I think the intent is always really good. That marketers in particular will they'll start to use a new AI tool and it will give really good results, which is amazing. But I didn't think originally, where does that go? I've just uploaded loads of creatives from our brand teams, and they're going to help us generate maybe some really cool, interesting content. But who owns the IP on that once it enters that system? Who else has got access to that? So it's that whole governance and that education piece. That actually it's not because you can't do it. We just want to make sure that you're doing it in the right way.
Yeah. Susan, you just touched on experimentation and finding new uses. I'd love to know what's exciting you about potential uses of AI within Diageo for the future.
Yeah, I think the really exciting place is how we augment consumer experience. And our mission is to help people celebrate every day. And we have great brands to do that. So connecting that mission to our brands and consumers is really exciting. And we are thinking about what are the problems that consumers tell us they're having, and how can we play a part in that? Whether it's organizing a party, creating a more memorable experience. These are all areas that we're trying to hone in on the consumer wants and needs and really develop new ways to solve those problems.
Mm-hmm. Have you got anything coming up that you can tell us about?
We have piloted and experimented with something that is a party planning tool, an at-home party planning tool, as an example. You could put in prompts about, and this is a real prompt that someone gave it, I didn't make this up off the top of my head. It was back when Barbie was the popular movie. I would like a punk rock Barbie party. And it comes back with suggestions. Now, to me, the interesting thing was what it came back with, you could see how it got there. But it was really interesting as those suggestions came forward, and then you continued to prompt it where it could lead you and how you could customize it. And in understanding, like, oh, wow, why did it recommend that? It actually led you to think about different ways to really achieve what you want. It was really interesting.
So it's actually sparking further innovation.
Yes.
And, yeah,
Absolutely.
Aaron?
So for us, and well, for me personally, there's a few really interesting areas, and the first one is being able to really analyze external information at such a scale that it can provide us with more insights as an organization, as a digital function, as a brand functions to really understand the external knowledge and insights. So it's like like CMI on steroids. Like how do we find out more so that we can better understand what the external conditions are and how we can tackle and support them, and how we provide the right services and stuff. And then and then the more internal facing aspect of it is how do we give more services to our customers. I mentioned earlier around like hyper-personalization. And I think that goes to even from ads and creation of content for ads. Like how do you create on a scale for a one-to-one for every single person in this room to have a tailored piece of content which is actually more attractive for you in terms of conversion, but relaying the correct message, but you feel like this is really for me and not just a segment of 20 million people or 20,000 people. And then the other area is these insights of peer-to-peer understanding and stuff. And I've spoken about this previously in other talks, but this knowledge of how can our customer grow and how can we provide that one-to-one experience that we give from a business perspective. We have the most amazing, I'm biased, the best sales reps in the world, right? But they will spend so much time with customers, really understanding them. We have some sales reps who are now being with the same customer for so long that they're invited to their children's weddings and stuff. These are real relationships. But how do we scale that same level of love, care, and that essence of being part of the Wella family, as we call it? How do we scale that? We can't do that without AI. So it's about how do we really relay our culture and all our values, but on a more scale, because unfortunately we don't have 1 million employees to go around and spend time with everyone. But how do we do that?
Yeah, so that's both an opportunity and a challenge in many ways. Yeah. Interesting question for both of you. Given how AI can really spark creativity and innovation and can take away some of those heavy admin tasks, would you let AI write your brand manifesto? Susan?
I don't think we would. In thinking through how we use AI, I think we have a commitment to there are some things that we need to own, that need to be personal, that need to be created by our humans. And that feels like one of them. That feels like it goes a bit too far. Now, we might use AI to get insights at scale to inform what that manifesto should be, But I think the actual creation act, in this case, should be people.
Aaron?
And for me, whilst I completely agree, I did get AI to do it. Now, just to be clear, this is not the official company one. This isn't, and as a company, no, we would I agree with you. We would not get AI to build the values of our company. But what I would do is, and I think you mentioned this earlier, is you can use AI to spark information. You can use AI to support you in what that could look like and stuff like that. But I cannot and will not take away the amazing talent of my the corporate relations team, the amazing brand teams we've got, and they're not going to be replaced. The creativity that they've got is not going to be replaced. But in this instance, yes, I did ask it.
Yeah, so can we have a listen?
Yeah. So this is my Achilles
Does
heel
it say cool governance at any point?
It was using our internal fully governed AI tool. But yeah, this is actually a childhood fear of mine to read on front of people. So this is a big milestone for me. Wella Company embodies a rich heritage of innovation and excellence in the beauty industry. The brand values creativity, quality, and sustainability, striving to empower individuals to express their unique beauty. Wella's personality is vibrant, sophisticated, and inclusive, reflecting a commitment to diversity and self-expression, with a focus on cutting-edge technology and professional expertise. Wella inspires confidence and transformation, making every customer feel valued and beautiful. The brand's dedication to education and community support further enhances its reputation as a trusted and forward-thinking leader in the world of beauty. So,
pretty cool.
I thought it was actually quite good. Now, I have to say, we know that AI tools do crawl the internet and they do pull information from different areas. So I would actually say it's probably a summarized version of what we have on our corporate site. But that being said, it's not the same. It has amended it. It has shortened it and stuff like that. So do I think it's completely creativity there? No, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you for reading that out. Any questions from the audience?
So I run an independent creative agency, and I would just love to know, given on the conversation we just had, how has AI changed what you are looking for from your creative partners?
I think it's only sharpened what we need, which is amazing ideas and true creativity that can really help us develop platforms for our brands. I will say, I think some of the tasks will change of, production tasks. We have, divisions in every country in the world, and we need to provide enough content for all of them. So we are going to use some AI to adapt and transcreate. So that is a function that I think could probably happen through AI, although with always having people involved. But I think it's almost sharpened what we need from agencies, given the last thing you'd want is, given it crawls the internet, everything would start to look the same. So I think if you don't have that originating creative, it just becomes all bland.
Yeah, I agree. And where we've used it is actually, we've used AI to help brief our creative agencies a lot stronger, because there's one thing doing the whole document of the brief, but to really have a visualization, which isn't complete, but it helps a lot of the more visual and creative people actually really start to interpret what we're asking for, which I thought was an interesting way to actually use it. So we didn't use it for the end result. We actually used it to try and communicate what we wanted more. And then similar to what Susan said, we're seeing the production element and the transcreation, the reformatting of the creatives, and I think that's the bit which, do we need to go to an agency and say, can you convert this into 6 or 7 different formats? Can you make sure that it's optimized for mobile? Can you make sure it's optimized for all of our e-commerce and our media? I think I can see that taking a shift as well. And like Susan said, I don't think the creativity will be gone because we still need that creativity. But those admin or operational bits, I think if we use AI to remove that, we can spend more time on the creativity, and I think that's exciting because the more time we've got for creativity and thinking, who knows what we'll come up with, and I think that's how we see it changing with third parties.
As a consumer psychologist, I will always look at what customers actually do. And the challenge with AI, when we look at all the research, is the customers will tell you that they really like the products that are co-created or driven by AI and that they will value it higher. But when you actually look at their behaviors or decisions, the product perception is actually devalued considerably and the conversion is reduced, mostly due to reduced trustworthiness and emotional value. How do you manage that mixed mindset around the consumers around AI? And do you therefore choose to occasionally not communicate that AI has been used?
First, we're always transparent about when we use it. Full stop. I think what we've tried to lean into is less about what consumers might say and more about what they do. And what AI has allowed us to do is harness the actual actions they're taking via search, via e-commerce, et cetera, to understand that pathway that they're taking to interact with our brands. So I guess in summary, we tend to look at action versus only what they tell us. And I think that serves as a pretty good guide.
Yeah, and just, I mean, the only things for me to add to that is I think authenticity is super important. And with the AI tools which exist now, there's no reason why a lot of companies could end up creating the same perception or the same types of creativity. And for us, we're a beauty company. And that authenticity of the output is so important. So if we're going to be using AI for anything, like Susan said, there's no question you have to be fully transparent. But back to the authenticity, if we're selling something or providing something to you, it doesn't matter if we've got AI to create the best, sales creative. If your hair doesn't look absolutely incredible after you've used the products, then we've failed. And I think that's super, super important. It's the authenticity of the value that the customer or consumer gets at the end of the day.
I have a question about the smart recommendation of drinks or beauty products. Do you think there would be a risk of narrowing the selection, therefore the brand's offering, with providing highly precise, personalized offers? Because when we were all buying CDs and listening to the entire album, sometimes I feel it helps you broaden your taste by listening to the sounds that you wouldn't proactively handpick for your own playlist. But by offering the customers exactly what they know they want, do you think it might affect the potential discovery of unexpected new favorites? Thank you.
Great question.
It's a really good question. I think for now, what we're focused on is almost enhancing that discovery because, for any occasion, there are so many great drinks that you could have, and our portfolio is amazing and broad. So I think there's a lot of land to cover just in helping people discover what's right for the thing they're trying to do right now, which could be different from the thing they're doing tomorrow and the occasion they're in there. What we've seen so far is it actually leads to more discovery because it brings up things that people never would have thought of. And then there's a journey from there of oh, that's really interesting recommendation. What about this? What about that? And the prompting that AI involves allows for that. So, I mean, for now, no. I haven't seen that as a big issue, but I think it is something to consider as we move forward.
Yeah, I'd agree. And there is an element of going way too far on some of these things, right? But I would say for us, being able to provide the insights on what we think which may trigger a question which may trigger a thought. And I think when it comes to style and things like that, and just to be clear, I am not an expert in fashion or beauty or anything, despite working for Wella. It's a different department. But to be able to inspire and recommend and try to have something relevant for that person, even if it's wrong, has it triggered a question? Have they considered something they haven't before? And for us, because we want everyone to feel their best selves, we can't make those recommendations unless we really try to understand you as an individual. Is it going to be right all the time? No. Great thing about AI is it's going to learn over time and maybe we'll get better. But in regards to the hyper-personalization bit, I think this has been done by banks for many times. And that's offering a service which is best for you. And in their situation, it's like loans and stuff like that. But like for us, it's how do we make sure the trade terms, possibly, right, and things like that are actually built for you as a business, because your business isn't exactly the same as someone else's. And when you've got hundreds of thousands of businesses that you're working with, it's not always that easy to do that.